Hey, what's up folks? How's it going? This is Waj. Hope you guys are all doing well. So thus far we've done a lot of things regarding the new Apple MacBook Pro, the late 2016 model. And what I want to do is see how it compares against probably one of those interesting Windows-based Ultrabook PCs that you can get right now, the Surface Book. Now what we're going to do is basically take a look at the kind of core differences between these two machines, see what the advantages and disadvantages are on both platforms, and see which one is ultimately the best kind of high-end laptop computer. So if you guys are in the market and are deciding between these two, you have some sort of direction to go. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Now, one of the key design differences from the Surface Book to the new MacBook has to be the fact that the Surface Book is actually a 2-in-1 tablet and laptop combination. Obviously, you can use it in a more traditional laptop form factor with an excellent keyboard and large trackpad. But because we have such a gorgeous display on the Surface Book, using it as a tablet, especially surfing the web, is an absolute pleasure. Windows 10 is really optimized for both a traditional Windows cursor interface as well as a touch interface, as the success of the Surface Pro series of tablets have shown in the past. Now, when it comes to portability and dimensionally speaking, the new MacBook Pro is certainly a little bit more compact than the current iteration of the Surface Book, both having a smaller overall footprint, being thinner overall, and even weighing less. It weighs around 1.37 kilograms versus the Surface Book weighs around 1.64 kilograms. In terms of actual construction and build quality, I would put both of these in kind of the same category. They're both beautifully made. The Surface Book is made out of magnesium alloy, so very strong and overall durable, and we have a very high-grade aluminum unibody construction on the newest version of the MacBook Pro. As we discussed in the past, one of the biggest problems with the new MacBook Pro certainly has to be dealing with the connectivity issue of those USB Type-C connections. You have 4 ports in total, and although they're very capable, as we mentioned before, you can hook up 4K, 5K displays at a relatively high refresh rate. You can obviously hook up traditional USB devices, but you're going to need adapters if those devices are not already USB Type-C compatible, which most devices aren't these days. On the contrary, the Surface Book is very convenient. It has 2 full-size USB Type 3 A connectors, even a full-size SD card slot, as well as mini DisplayPort connections to hook up to an external monitor. Now, one of the things that makes both of these two computers very premium certainly has to be the high resolution, very vibrant displays. They're both around the 13-inch mark, and in terms of high resolution, the Surface Book, as we mentioned, is around 3000 by 2000 dots, versus we're looking at about 2560 by 1600 resolution on the 13-inch MacBook Pro. In terms of overall brightness, both are relatively in the same ballpark. I would say that the MacBook is slightly brighter at around 500 nits versus you're looking about 300 nits on the Surface Book. Obviously, we have the new Pixel Sense technology integrated into the Surface Book panel. So that means that the display can actually determine the difference between the Surface Pen as well as your fingers and other objects that's making contact with the screen, and will actually respond to those interaction in specific ways. So for example, if you touch a input box with your fingers, it'll pull up the virtual keyboard, thus making appropriate sense to that specific command with your fingers. Just makes things a little bit more convenient, and go way beyond that. In terms of the MacBook Pro's special features, some of these new computers have essentially a secondary display located at the very top row of your keyboard, where traditionally you would find your escape button and everything. So with this, you basically get, as we mentioned before, a secondary display, and it'll act and pull up specific commands and features specific to your application and whatever you're doing with it. And it's fully customizable depending upon which applications you're using, and it's certainly an innovative and cool futuristic feature that hasn't been demonstrated on any notebook thus far. Now, internally, both of these computers are fairly configurable depending upon your specific needs and the stuff that you're going to do on them. We actually have the base model of the 13-inch MacBook Pro with the light bar, and basically the bare essential version of the Surface Book, so the most economical Surface Book that's available right now. So on the Surface Book, we have a Core i5 6300U. It's clocked around 2.5 gigahertz. On the MacBook Pro, we have an Intel Core i5 as well. It's clocked around 2 gigahertz and it can turbo up to 3.1 gigahertz. Both computers have 500 series integrated graphics as well as 8 gigabytes of RAM, and both also have integrated PCIe base SSD drive, as well as stuff like AC, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth 4.0 and everything like that. Now, we did a series of benchmark tests, just testing out these base model configuration. And in pretty much every scenario, because it has a slightly faster Core i5 CPU, you can see at the Geekbench results over here, both in the single core and multi-core performance, the Surface Book is lagging far behind of what this baseline configuration of the MacBook Pro is doing. Same thing with the Cinebench R15 benchmark. We're getting 338 points on the MacBook versus about 307 points. And when it comes to gaming, if you are going to game with these base model configurations, you also find higher overall playable frame rates on the MacBook Pro. 39 average FPS on Heaven benchmark at high details at 720p versus 21.1 average frames per second on our Surface Book. And the big difference as well is going to come down to the read and write performance. The PCI Express SSD drive that's integrated into the Apple MacBook Pro is absolutely blazing fast. I got 2 gigabytes and 1.3 gigabytes in terms of read and write performance respectively, versus the Surface Book is sometimes struggling to even get half as good as that, and in most cases it's going to be lagging far behind when it comes to the SSD performance, even though we can't really do the same benchmark on both platforms. But generally speaking, boot up times and installing and launching applications is probably going to be overall quicker on the MacBook based on my specific experience compared to what you're going to experience on the Surface Book, certainly when you're getting the base model. Now, obviously, if you spec out the Surface Book, you could spend $3,000-$4,000 in getting the latest Core i7, faster overall SSD drive, and even dedicated graphics. So it can become a very powerful computer, but at this baseline configuration, the MacBook is going to give you a little bit more performance based on our experience. Now, last but certainly not least, let's talk about battery life performance. In terms of actual capacity specification, the MacBook is running around a 54.4 lithium polymer watt-hour battery. And on the Surface Books, there's actually two batteries, one that's built into the tablet and one that's actually built into the base where the keyboard and trackpad lies. And with that, you got a combined watt-hour rating of about 69, just under 70 watt-hours. And basically what I did is I played a movie on a VLC on both computers, set the brightness to about 50%, turned off all the Wi-Fi antenna and everything, and just see how long it took to get from roughly 100% charge to roughly around 0% charge. And the Surface Book got around 8 hours, 50 minutes, and about 7 hours, 41 minutes on the MacBook Pro. So almost about an hour difference between the two, going to the clear winner on the Surface Book side. Certainly having that larger capacity battery will be quite helpful, and Windows 10 these days is actually quite an efficient operating system compared to previous iterations in the past. But of course, battery life will always fluctuate depending upon what type of applications you're going to be using, but generally speaking, looks like the Surface Book has this one on hand. But really on that, guys, that's really it. Generally speaking, when it comes to the sheer performance aspect of things, it's going to depend upon which version of both these two machines that you're going to configure to get, and that'll be decided upon what you're going to do and what your budget is. The current baseline configuration of the MacBook Pro with the light bar is certainly faster than the baseline configuration of the Surface Book, but in terms of battery life, the Surface Book has that edge up. In terms of convenience, it has all those conventional ports that a lot of people want to use and don't want to deal with the adapters like we have on the new MacBook Pros. So just like everything else is is going to come down to your personal preference. Now, if you were to ask me which computer I would specifically go for, I'd probably say the MacBook Pro. One, love the clean, simple design, and I can probably deal with the adapters for the time being. And I think in terms of an investment standpoint, generally speaking, MacBook computers hold their value a little bit better than most other Windows-based computers, but we might have an exception on the Surface Book. We'll see how it ages throughout the years. But really, other than that, guys, that's really it. If you have any specific questions, let me know. Thank you for watching, and thank you so much for your support. Without you guys, all this stuff wouldn't be possible. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care.